Hi everyone, it's Priya Stanley here for Up to Some Ink. Happy New Year! Welcome to another video. I'm going to show you how to make this card that's got the sentiment sort of set back on the card base with the front panel popped up. So we're going to be using a stamp from the Four Feathers stamp set from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to be stamping this out in Black Hero Hues black ink, which is a waterproof ink because we're going to be watercoloring. This is actually watercolor paper, so it's thick. It's about 300 GSM, I think, and I'm using it on the not so textured side, only because it stamps better than the textured side, as you can imagine, and the water just takes to the paper in the same way, and it still gives you those lovely watercolor features when you color over it. So here I go. I am stamping these feathers in all sorts of directions, cascading down the front panel, and yeah, just to give it a little bit of movement as if there are feathers falling down. I'm just going to stamp another one in the top left corner. I just thought I needed it. There we go, and I was happy with that. So now I'm going to be watercoloring. I've got these new Gansai Tambi watercolors. I hope I've said that right. And they are fabulous. You just need the tiniest amount to get these vibrant colors. And I'm going to use these blues and greens and some purples there. I'm going to use them on the feathers. So I'm starting off with this emerald green, and I realized once I've started putting color down, it's actually quite intense. And so I'm squeezing my Aqua Brush to try to get the water to flow. And then I realize, of course, there's no water in there. So I had to run and get some more water. And so I did that. And then, of course, when I picked up the color this time, there was a lot more water and it was a much more transparent kind of color. And I was kind of able to bleed that color out a little bit and dilute it somewhat. And then, of course, I make my way over all these feathers, adding a little bit more color. And of course, with that water, it obviously moves a lot more and you get this wonderful pooling in certain areas, which I just love. I love that effect that watercolors give. So, yep, I'm adding a little bit of that peacock blue into the green. So we're getting a bit of blending now. And now I'm going to start on this feather with some blue. And here you can see me applying the blue. I realize, of course, that that's far too much color, and so I get some water flowing to kind of spread that out a bit. You can see I've dropped a big blob of water to the right of that feather. I'll show you how I deal with that in a second, because at this point I hadn't even realized, but that's pretty easy to mop up when you're working on watercolor paper. And now here I'm actually just putting some clear water down, which is actually how I usually like to work with watercolors. I like to wet the area that I'm going to color in and then drop some color onto it. So there you can see how I'm using this technique, and just let the water, just work for you. You don't really have to move it around too much. You just wet the whole area and then drop some color on there, and then it just blends however it pleases. And usually, it knows what it's doing and it gives you a lovely effect. As you can see, I'm not being careful. I'm not being careful about staying within the lines. This is a really artsy kind of loose watercolor look. And the more free you are, I guess the more successful you are at this technique. So just have fun with it. Adding a bit more purple in now, which I'm going to blend with some blue. And I'll just speed up this bit here because basically I just keep on adding and I keep transitioning towards a purple by adding some purple in. Okay, and to mop up that little drop of water there, I just use a dry tissue to just suck up the water, and then it's like as if it never happened. And also there was another area I wanted to fix up, the purpley bluey feather just here. I felt that blue and purple weren't really blending, so I added a bit more water, got the blue to bleed into the purple a bit more, and then I also mopped up some of the water that contained a lot of that color, and I liked this much better because it was a less intense effect. And so then I was happier with that. And then I just let this dry. And because it's about 38,000 degrees in Sydney at the moment, it took all of 2 minutes to dry that panel. And now we're ready to start assembling our card. So I've got this Thinking of You sentiment that I got out of a paper tray ink set, which was Over Under Easy, I think it's called. I'm just marking where I want that sentiment to sit behind this panel, and I'm going to actually cut out a strip from my cardstock, from my front panel. So I'm just lining it up with that first little mark that I made, and then making my first cut. I'll save that piece, and then I'll make a second cut for the top boundary of that slice that I'm taking out, and I don't need to save that piece. And now I've got my black card base already cut and folded to make a C6 card. I'm just going to draw in a light pencil line where the bottom strip sits, and then also where the top strip sits, and these guidelines are going to help me know where to stamp my sentiment. So now, because I'm going to be heat embossing this sentiment, I use a little bit of corn flour on a brush, and I brush over the area that's going to be heat embossed. This basically takes away any static, so that when I pour the embossing powder over this area, it will only stick to the Versamark ink that I've applied onto the stamp, and it won't stick to any other parts on the card where there might be a little bit of static or some oil from your fingers, which is very possible. This way you get the best results with your embossing. Okay, so I'm picking up the little stamp with the acrylic block and then stamping it with some Versamark ink. Sorry about my head being in the way. I edited all of that out for you. You're welcome. And here I'm sprinkling on some Ranger Liquid Platinum embossing powder. This is a super fine, wonderful, warm silver colour, and it looks lovely on this card. So I'm just going to tap off the excess straight back into the container there. And as you can see, I haven't got any other stray bits of embossing powder stuck to any other parts on the black cardstock, and that's because I did that application of corn flour. A really light dusting is all you need, and then you get some really, really good embossing results. So putting my embossing powder away. Okay, so now I'm just hitting it with my heat tool, finishing that off, and there you go. I've got a lovely sentiment there embossed in silver. I've applied foam tape to the back of these panels, and I'm just attaching it to the card base. My head's going to get in the way here, but as you can imagine, you really have to line up the edge of the panel with the edge of the card. So yes, my head gets in the way, and I'm speeding this section up because I realized I didn't have nearly enough foam tape on the back of the top panel. You want to have it really covered so that when you assemble the card, the middle doesn't sag down. So you need a lot of support behind it. And then you have to attach the top panel down to the card base, upside down. Yes, folks, I know, I'm sticking it down upside down. I didn't realize this until I was photographing the card. So yeah, I think I'm doing a fabulous job, but really, I'm doing it upside down. I'm doing it upside down. Anyway, yeah, I spent a lot of time going from green to greeny blue to bluey purple into purple, only to flip the top panel around when I stuck it down, and so that whole beautiful graduation of color is not even there. Anyway, I don't think it looks too bad, and I think if you didn't know how I had started the card, if you hadn't seen the making of this card, you probably wouldn't know. Anyway, so a little bit of Wink of Stella fixes everything. So I'm just putting on some Wink of Stella on these feathers. Wink of Stella is just kind of like a shimmer pen. It's got a clear ink that has the most beautiful subtle shimmer through it, and when you don't know quite what a card needs, but it needs a little bit of oomph, you can pretty much never go wrong with a little bit of Wink of Stella. It's just subtle, but it adds a little bit of shine. You know, that just adds to this otherwise very simple card. And it also kind of complements the shine in the embossed sentiment. So rather than having the embossed sentiment on its own as a sort of shiny element, you actually carry that throughout the whole card. And I'm trying to show you here. I wonder if you can see that shine. It is so much better in person. There, you can just see a hint of it. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today with this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see you soon next time. Have a good day. Bye.